Hi everyone, I'm Pauline from Gitpod, and today I'm with Beyang, who is CTO and co-founder at Sourcegraph. And in this demo, we'll show you how you can use Sourcegraph's Cody on Gitpod. Over to you, Beyang.
Awesome. Thank you, Pauline, for having me. So for those of you who don't know, Sourcegraph is a developer tool. So we started out as a code search engine. So you can search for anything that you might want. For example, if I wanted to search for Gitpod, I could quickly locate it. And then once I'm here, I can search for different symbols and things in code. So I don't know, what's a popular function in Gitpod? Maybe something around like rendering or something like that. I can see all the symbols in this repository that are related to rendering, and I can dive in to any piece of code, and I get full jump to definition, find references across this code base. So we started out as kind of a code understanding tool, but what we've been working on recently is a new AI editor assistant. So the idea is large language models they have a bunch of potential for developer tools and developer productivity. At the same time, they suffer from a lot of the limitations that people have already encountered using tools like, for instance, ChatGPT, where a lot of these things can hallucinate, they make up stuff, they're not always accurate. And so our idea was we could take a lot of the features of Sourcegraph, the things that human developers already use to read and understand code, and feed those into a coding AI to help ground it in kind of real answers. And so I just have Gitpod open in my browser, and I have the Sourcegraph repository open. Sourcegraph also contains the source code for Cody, which is 100% open source. And I have Cody open in the sidebar here. I'm just going to ask Cody a couple questions. One thing you might ask when you're first entering a code base is, what does the code base do? So I'm going to ask, what is Sourcegraph? And Cody's going to think a bit. It's going to read a bunch of files, and you can inspect the files it's reading. You can get a flavor of what Cody is using as reference material to answer my question. So it reads a bunch of documentation, a couple source files too. And then it synthesizes that into an answer for me. It tells me Sourcegraph is a code intelligence platform that helps developers understand code, and it provides this set of features. So once I have kind of like a high level understanding, one of the things I might ask is, how do I use this project? So I could ask it to show me an example of using the Sourcegraph GraphQL search API to fetch, I don't know, results matching a particular symbol name. Just like before, Cody is going to search across the files in this repository and pieces of documentation and synthesize those snippets into, in this case, a code snippet that reflects the shape of the Sourcegraph search API. Now, once I have a sense of what a project does and how I can use it as a library or a dependency, maybe the next step in my evolution as a developer on this repository is to go and actually edit the file. So like contribute features back to this. So I can ask, Cody can help me answer questions like, where is a particular piece of functionality defined? So I can ask, where is the SAML auth provider defined in Sourcegraph? And I'll ask it specifically to find some files. And then again, Cody does its thing, searching across the repository. So there's the file that it found, and these are all real files that it finds. And once I'm in this file, I can see that's related to the SAML auth provider. I can also ask for a high-level explanation of what's going on in this file. So explain what's going on in this file. And Cody will read the file as well as some other related files, and will give me an overview of what's going on in this code. So this is really helpful for reading and understanding code, kind of quickly building up a working understanding of the code that you need to modify. Another interesting thing you can do is you can actually dive in, and this will help you edit code. So I'm going to jump into a different part of the repository. I'll ask which file defines the Cody recipe for generating a unit test. And just real quick, I'll show off what a recipe is. Recipes in Cody are basically these quick actions that you can take that represent common things that you might want to do with Cody. So you have explain code, both in detail and at a high level. There's generating unit tests, which we're going to dive into shortly. There's generating a doc string, and just a whole bunch of things that are kind of common actions that we found users want to do with a coding assistant. One of the additional things that you can do with Cody is you can dive into specific files that define a piece of functionality that you're looking for, and it will help you edit that file. So I can ask it which file defines the Cody recipe for explaining code at a level. So Cody will do some searches on my behalf and poke around the code base a little bit, and it will tell me the exact file that I want to open. Again, this is a bug. The link would open in kind of a local version of VS Code, but since we're in the browser here, I think it's having a little trouble. So let me just open that file. And sure enough, this is the file that defines the Cody recipe for explaining code at a high level. Let's say I wanted to add a recipe for translating code into a more functional style. So I can ask Cody, hey, I want to add a Cody recipe to translate code to a more functional style. And then I can ask it, which file should I read and modify to do this? And Cody basically walks me through the changes I need to make. So it's giving me a step-by-step guide to what I want to change. The first thing I might want to do is go to this recipes TS file. And then I want to, this defines the recipe interface. So I can read, understand that. I can look at an existing recipe. So it surfaced this translate.ts file as an example. And then I can even ask it to, hey, can you write the recipe to translate code to a more functional style? And this will actually take a look at the existing recipes and mimic their structure to generate code that translates code to more functional style. If you look at the code, you can see that it's pattern matching against the existing recipes, but it's smart enough to change the prompt to be geared towards translating code into a more functional style. Now, this is one way that Cody can help you author code. You give it an explicit prompt and instruct it to write something. Another way to do it is through like the inline autocomplete. So if you prefer like autocomplete like experience, you can just type the code that you want to type and Cody will autocomplete stuff for you as well. Some folks like to, instead of chatting in the sidebar, they like to highlight stuff. Let's highlight the whole thing, and I can ask Cody to react to something that I've highlighted inline in the editor. So explain what this code is doing. Ask Cody that, and then it will generate stuff in the sidebar for now, but the main view is going to be this kind of inline chat thing. And so once it's finished searching around for the proper files, it will respond to me inline where I asked it. And this also supports code generation in this interface as well. The basic idea is that we've incorporated AI into a couple different places in the editor. You got the kind of sidebar chat that understands and can search across your entire code base, accept explicit questions and instructions for generating code. You have the inline chat where you can ask questions specifically in line with the code about specific selections. And then, of course, there's the autocomplete, which you can use to autocomplete entire functions or just go line by line as you're coding. One of the wonderful things about Cody is that it's open source, and because it's open source, this source is available online. You're free to inspect it. And currently, we support the VS Code API, and that means it works seamlessly in an editor like Gitpod. We also have support for other editors coming along the way, but since this is a mainly Gitpod audience, I suspect that folks will just want to go and download Cody from the kind of open extension marketplace. And the way you do that is just by going to the extension marketplace here. You can search for Cody Sourcegraph. And then it's this one. And then you just click install, and then you're off to the races. So I guess I'll kick things back over to you, Pauline.
Yes, thank you. Did we just watch the future of development? here. I think Beyang, thank you so much for showing us Cody. I'm so excited for our community and our users to try it out. Where can people find more information about Sourcegraph and Cody?
Yeah, so you can just go to about.sourcegraph.com/Cody for now. We'll soon have a landing page up that's just cody.dev. That's much easier to type. Or you could just search for Sourcegraph Cody in Google. That'll probably get you to the right place as well.
Amazing. Great. Thank you. So if you have any more questions about Gitpod or anything you saw today, feel free to join us on our Discord community server over at gitpod.io/chat. And yes, we'll see you soon. Thanks again, Beyang.
Thanks, Pauline.